All right, we're going to do a quick version of the NASCAR weekly forecast this week. We have some pretty strong opinions. Not much to talk about last week, except the race was rain shortened. And anytime that happens, especially in the sport, it's so important with pit cycles and strategy, and it's a guessing game. Uh, yeah, we had a terrible week last week. I mean, our two guys we had for top fives finished in the top 10, but that does us no good. The matchup, both guys finished outside the top 20. That's terrible. Austin Hill, horrible week. I really think that Kozlowski and Blaney certainly, and our Ford bet, again, game of ifs. Anytime JJ Yaley, who hasn't finished in the top 10 since 2013, finishes in the top 10, something's weird. But hey, those are just excuses. We got to move on. I was very pleased with the way we handicapped the race last week. Just bad results. Unlucky, I would say, because the race stopped a little more than halfway through. So if the race ran full and the pit cycles and everything cycled out, hopefully we get that this week in New Hampshire. Hopefully we do in Loudon, New Hampshire. It's the Crayon 301. Crayon's actually a company based in Oslo, Norway. They're in 46 countries. It's not a Crayola crayon. It's a company called Crayon. They do IT, and they're involved in the NASCAR space. So this track is 1.058 miles. They call it the Miracle Mile, the Magic Mile, actually. And so it's 301 laps. That's why the name of the race is the Crayon 301. And it's 318.5 miles. So there's three tracks that we are going to use as comp tracks this week: Phoenix, Richmond, and Gateway Worldwide Technology. So those are three tracks that are flat, short tracks, but yet they're not Martinsville, which is only, and Bristol, which are half a mile. These are 1 mile flat tracks. Those are the tracks we're going to use. So if you look at the winners of those three races this year, Byron wins in Phoenix, Kyle Larson wins in Richmond, and Kyle Busch wins in Gateway. Just a note this week for people that like Larson. I don't really like him, but Larson's in Ohio this week racing dirt cars. So he actually won last night, Tuesday night, in Attica at the Brad Doty Memorial, which is a big race. And then the Eldora Million is Thursday. So his schedule this week, I would assume, is he's staying up in Ohio this week until Friday night. Then he'll fly to New Hampshire Friday night after the night before the King's Royal. He'll fly to New Hampshire, qualify, and practice at New Hampshire Motor Speedway. Then he'll fly back to Ohio with little time to spare. I remember last year I tracked his flight. With little time to spare and running the King's Royal, which is arguably one of the three biggest races in the dirt car world. Then he'll get on that same plane and he'll fly back to New Hampshire in time to race Sunday. So that's his schedule. It's a hectic, crazy schedule. Obviously, he's a gifted driver. I watch all the dirt stuff, so I'm into that. I'm going to fade him this week in this just because the dirt stuff is more on his mind, and he really hasn't been dominant. I mean, no Chevy has won this race since 2016. Watch this week, Chevy's finished 1, 2, 3, but no Chevy has won. It's been 3 Toyotas and 4 Fords. So we're going to look at metrics here in a minute, but just thinking about that as far as, but again, there's a conundrum because William Byron is the best driver in the series. By the way, and not that it matters, but for my personal betting, I got Byron 16-1 live at the end of the first stage last week, and I cashed. So I had a winning week. Again, I'm not selling these picks, so I'm not real worried about, what's documented, what's not. I just thought take a shot on him last week, in Atlanta. He wound up winning. I don't think, again, got lucky. I don't think he would have won if the race went the whole way. He was on old tires, the fuel was almost done, but he won, it turned out. So kind of understanding the sport, understanding maybe it's gonna, maybe there's gonna be weather, and then looking at those lap times, I thought he was probably the best car that was gonna stay out, and that's why he was the best bet. So I took him live and I took Larson live. Larson live didn't work out too well. If he was out of the race, he crashed. But so again, this week they're in New Hampshire, and it's a race that's near and dear to my heart. I'll be attending the race, and it's an hour from my house. I live in the Boston area, so exciting stuff. But let's dive right in to what we got here. So if you look at history at this track, and you look at, you have to go way, way down the list to find a Chevy, right? So you got Toyota, Ford, Toyota, Ford. Then we got Larson with an average finish of 12.7. Looking at the markets this week, looking at Kyle Larson has only finished, in the top 5 twice. It has a 12.7 average. It's too tight. It's too short of a price for me. And a broken record, we say that every week. So I don't really like Larson this week. Cindric, if you look, has run well, but nothing to show for it. And William Byron. William Byron's a guy we'll talk about later. Again, 4 wins this year. According to the markets, favorite to win the championship. Hasn't done great, in New Hampshire. Now, Chris Bell won this race last year, finished second the year before. The year before that, he finished 28th. So his average finish is totally skewed. But Bell is a guy we really like this week. A lot of people like him. He's pretty short. But if you look at these track histories, these are guys that run well at this track. Kyle Busch, feast or famine at this track. Chastain, not that good. Bowman, not that good. Okay. Laps led. Laps led is a metric which shows, over the long haul, who's doing the best. You look at guys here, except for Busch, who's just been unlucky here, been feast or famine. A lot of the guys that have good performances have led a ton of laps. Martin Truex Jr., Kevin Harvick, Denny Hamlin, Brad Keselowski. In the last 2, since the next gen car, Truex, Harvick, Chase Elliott, Blaney and Keselowski. So, again, these guys, and we'll get to the speed ratings, but if you look at the laps led, that, when you're modeling, when you're handicapping, you got to look at, are they fast? And then how do they finish? What's the end result? So laps led is a pretty big thing for me. Truex has a ton of laps led there. And then in the last 10 races, again, points. You get points for every stage, points for the race. Look at Truex. And the reason Bell isn't on there is he's only rode this race 3 times. They only go there once a year. So he's only been in Cup for 3 years, Chris Bell. So he's only been there 3 times. But look at Truex, Harvick, Hamlin, Keselowski's a guy, Busch, Blaney, Logano, Larson. Almirola's a guy where there's value on. He runs well at this track. I just don't trust him in that equipment this week, even though Fords are good, even though Fords are, and that team is good with Harvick, on Stewart Haas. I don't trust Eric Almirola. He's not a guy I would play at all, unless I get north of 2.5 to 1 in a top 10, which I'm not getting now. When he practices and qualifies well, so you're probably not going to get it later. So that's probably a no play for me. Last 5, look at it again. Kevin Harvick. So Kevin Harvick, if you look at it, last 5 races, he's got the most points. Last 10, he's second. And then look at his average finish, 8.5. It's his last year. Again, we've played this angle a lot, but it's his last year. This is a race he obviously has won a bunch. Certainly, wants to finish with a bang. speed ratings. So this is last year's race. Obviously the same tracks as last year's race, but same car. You look at Kevin Harvick was fast last year. Chase Elliott was fast. Kurt Busch was fast, and he's not riding this year. Reddick's in his car. That's why there's nobody in the third spot. But if you look at this track, in most short tracks, it is if you're fast, you're going to finish well. On a super speedway, it's not like that because you need racing luck and you got to stay out of trouble, and there's a lot of crashes. Here, if you're fast and you have a fast car, you're going to do well here. And Chris Bell, 6th, he won the race. You know, Bubba Wallace, a guy who hasn't done well at this track, but he was fast last year. And then Chase Elliott. So if you look, and William Byron. I mean, William Byron just missed the top 10. You know, he was right on the cusp there. So that's how that looks. And then here's speed ratings, you know, at conventional ovals this year. So non-super speedways, non-road courses or street courses. So again, William Byron has 4 wins. He's a favorite to win it all. No surprise, he's the fastest. Hamlin next, Truex, Larson. Harvick, who does not qualify well, has been fast on these tracks. Chastain, Bell, Bowman, who has been terrible, you know, at New Hampshire, but Blaney and Reddick. So, and then our 3 comp tracks, which are Phoenix, Richmond, and Worldwide Technology Gateway, William Byron, Kevin Harvick, Denny Hamlin, Larson, Bell, Blaney, Chastain. So Keselowski is a guy. Here's our conundrum. Brad Keselowski this year at those 3 comp tracks has been 18th. He's, you know, nowhere, he's not in the top 10 in conventional ones. I am going to go on, and I don't know how to share my screen with this. I am going to go on and look at how he's done. So his Loudon performance, 4 straight top 10s. I don't know how to share this screen. I think you're still on the PDF, but, you know, started first in 19, finished 10th. 2020, started 4th, 1. 2021, started 11, finished 3rd. Last year, started 9th, finished 7th in the new car, in the new equipment, right? In the RFK, not the Penske. So again, I mean, he has not been fast on, you know, these kind of tracks this year, but he's a horse for course at New Hampshire. So when we get to the selections, I'm going to take Keselowski for a top 10. I really believe in him this week for a top 10. Top 5s, Harvick and Truex. Look at every metric you can. Speed ratings, track history, recency, motivation. These 2 guys, top 5s. I'd get on those guys now, especially Truex, because the best you can find is even. And then I think Chris Bell for a top 5 is a good play, but I'm not going to take minus money or even on that. I'm going to take him for a top 3. I just think, you know, winning this race last year, he always qualifies well. He's going to have a fast car. You know, let's look at his, you know, at these 3 comp tracks, you know, he's top 5 speed, but he is, you know, his average finish at this track, you know, is 1.5 the last 2. He had 1 bad race. He's always in the mix. I just think he can fit. I'm not a big top 3 guy, but I think the value is there for him for a top 3. And then the matchup, you know, if you look at the speed metrics, William Byron, you know, has been super fast this year. You know, he already won at one of these comp tracks at Phoenix. You know, his speed rating is fast. He won last week. They say with him and all the Hendrick cars, but mainly with him, that if he rolls off fast, if he qualifies well, so if he qualifies top 10, he's going to have a big week. Let's see. I like him over Busch only for the reason that, you're getting the best driver in the series who has the fastest car at these tracks and plus money. Can't beat it. So to me, that's a huge play. I think, my strongest feelings are Keselowski, the top 10, Harvick, the top 5, and Byron, the matchup. I mean, I like them all. I'm going to play them all, but those are the 3 I like most. So hopefully we get a clean race this week. We get, a lot of green flag racing, and it goes the whole way. This race a couple of years ago, the year Eric Almirola won, was shortened. This track does not have lights. So the old thing, and if you're on NASCAR Twitter, you'll see the old thing. NASCAR is just such a slave to TV windows. So they won't start a race earlier if weather's coming in. So because USA Network is showing Law and Order reruns, right? Or, see it, Cold Case. I think it's Law and Order, but then it doesn't matter. They're showing stuff. Anyway, USA can't preempt that. So USA has to start that race at 3 in the TV window instead of, say, at 12, because all the teams are there, right? Because they've already practiced and qualified the day before. So it makes no sense, but, there could be a darkness issue. I live in New England. There's actually, this weekend does not look good. Sunday looks okay, but the weekend does not look great in terms of weather. So we will see. But hopefully a race where, look, all you can do in betting, and the people on this channel know it, is get the best information, use your instincts and knowledge, and just go from there. And I really think that this week is one of those kind of weeks. We're taking, high percentage plays, every play we think is high, but these are guys that have a demonstrated track record at the track. There's a large sample size, unlike Chicago. And it's just, I'm excited for it. I like going to the race. A lot of NASCAR fans in this area, and it'll be, it's exciting stuff, good stuff. So everyone, good luck. If you have any questions, please reach out to me on Twitter at Ross Blacker, and we'll do this again next week. I look forward to doing these all season. We'll get into more of a rhythm, more of a flow, and then as we get into the playoffs, it'll be exciting. So this is race number 20, and there's 36 races, so more than halfway, but glad I started doing this, and certainly intend to do it every week. Thanks and good luck.